Have you ever found yourself gazing up at the ancient stone facades of cathedrals, or perhaps wandering through the hushed, timbered halls of a centuries-old church, only to notice a curious, leafy face peering back at you from the shadows? It might be carved into a column, tucked away in the intricate woodwork of a pew, or even staring down from a high gargoyle. These aren't just random decorative elements. They are the silent, watchful eyes of the Green Man, one of history's most enduring and enigmatic symbols. For centuries, these mysterious visages, sometimes smiling, sometimes stern, always adorned with foliage, have been an integral part of our architectural heritage, yet their true meaning remains shrouded in the mists of time. They invite us into a deeper connection with the past, whispering tales of forgotten beliefs and ancient wisdom. Imagine for a moment standing before one of these carvings. What thoughts race through your mind as you consider the hands that shaped it, the minds that conceived it, and the countless generations who have walked beneath its gaze, perhaps never truly understanding its purpose? The Green Man is far more than just a decorative motif. It is a symbol that transcends mere aesthetics, appearing across diverse cultures and spanning vast periods of history, from the intricate carvings of medieval Europe to much older, seemingly unrelated figures found in distant lands. It calls to something primal within us, a connection to nature, to the cyclical dance of life, death, and rebirth. This ubiquitous presence, yet elusive meaning, is what makes the Green Man so utterly captivating. It's a silent challenge, a visual riddle etched in stone and wood, beckoning us to unravel its secrets. Join us on an extraordinary journey as we delve deep into the heart of this profound mystery. We'll peel back the layers of time, exploring the Green Man's fascinating origins, tracing its unexpected appearances across continents and eras, and attempting to decipher the myriad meanings attributed to it throughout history. From the pagan rites of ancient forests to the sacred spaces of Christian cathedrals, we will uncover the theories and folklore that surround this compelling figure, seeking to understand why this leafy face has held such a powerful grip on the human imagination for so long. Prepare to reconsider what you thought you knew about the symbols that shape our world, as we embark on an adventure into the enduring allure of the Green Man, a symbol that continues to ask more questions than it answers, inviting us all to gaze a little closer at the mysteries hidden in plain sight. So, what exactly is this mysterious figure we call the Green Man? At its core, the Green Man is an architectural ornament, a distinct and often captivating image of a human-like face, almost always male, that is either completely surrounded by or quite literally made from leaves, foliage, or vines. These striking visages are most commonly discovered etched into the very fabric of ancient churches, grand cathedrals, and other centuries-old stone structures, where they have silently observed generations of human activity. But the Green Man isn't a singular, unchanging image. There are, in fact, three primary types that collectors and historians have identified, each with its own subtle yet significant variations that hint at different symbolic meanings or artistic interpretations. The first, and perhaps most common, is known as the Foliate head. This representation shows the face almost entirely engulfed or emerging from a dense canopy of leaves, sometimes appearing as if the face itself is a living part of the vegetation. The leaves might form a kind of leafy beard, hair, or even intricate facial features, giving the impression of a being intrinsically linked to the natural world. Think of an ancient tree spirit whose very essence is intertwined with the forest around it, and you begin to grasp the visual impact of the Foliate head. You can find stunning examples of this type in the intricate carvings of medieval cathedrals across Europe, such as the famous examples adorning the chapter house at Southwell Minster in England, where dozens of different botanical species are meticulously rendered, each forming a unique leafy face. Each one is a testament to the artisan's skill and perhaps a reflection of the deep reverence for nature that permeated daily life. Next, we encounter the Disgorging head. This is arguably the most dramatic and perhaps unsettling of the three types. Here, thick vines, branches, or lush foliage are seen spilling forth directly from the mouth of the green man. It's a powerful and visceral image suggesting a vital force, a generative power that literally breathes life and growth into the world. This type often evokes ideas of fertility, abundance, and the untamed power of nature. Imagine a primeval deity whose very breath gives rise to the flora of the earth, and you're close to understanding the symbolism. One particularly striking example can be seen in the carvings at Chartres Cathedral in France, where the disgorging vines seem to burst forth with an almost explosive energy, contrasting sharply with the solemnity of the sacred space. These carvings are not just decorative, they are dynamic expressions of nature's relentless cycle of growth and renewal. Finally, there is the bloodsucker head, which is often considered the most intense and somewhat frightening iteration of the green man. In this form, foliage, or sometimes even slender, root-like tendrils, emerge not just from the mouth, but from all facial orifices, the eyes, nose, and ears alongside the mouth. This can create a truly unsettling effect, giving the impression of being consumed by, or perhaps even feeding upon, the vegetation that surrounds it. The name bloodsucker head might sound grim, but it points to a more ancient, potent symbolism, one that could be linked to the raw, sometimes brutal, aspects of nature's cycle, where death and decay are as integral to life as growth and bloom. While less common than the other two types, examples of the bloodsucker head can still be found in various historical contexts, reminding us that nature's power is not always gentle. For instance, some of the more archaic wood carvings in remote English churches hint at this darker, more primeval connection, where the boundary between human and plant life is blurred, hinting at an ancient understanding of nature's relentless embrace. These diverse forms of the green man reveal a complex tapestry of human belief and artistic expression, each one a silent guardian of secrets from a time long past. Considering these varied forms, the question naturally arises, where did this enigmatic symbol first appear? Tracing the green man's earliest known appearances takes us far beyond the familiar medieval cathedrals of Europe, pushing its origins back to a much earlier era, suggesting a deeper, more widespread human connection to the symbolism of nature and growth. Our journey begins not in the misty forests of Britannia, but surprisingly in the sun-drenched landscapes of the Roman Empire, specifically around the 2nd century after Christ. One of the most compelling early examples can be found in a place of eternal rest, the tomb of the Hatyrii, a monumental funerary structure discovered in Rome. Amongst the elaborate carvings depicting scenes from the Hatyrii family's life and professions, you can spot what many scholars identify as a remarkably early precursor to the green man. Here, faces emerge from foliage, their features intertwined with leaves and vines, much like the medieval Foliate head. While these Roman versions might not possess the same mystical aura as their later counterparts, their presence on a tomb suggests a possible connection to themes of regeneration, the cycle of life and death, or even the deification of nature, perhaps hinting at a belief that even in death, life persists, symbolized by the ever-growing plant world. This Roman context hints that the symbol may have initially been linked to funerary art or architectural embellishment, rather than solely religious iconography. Remarkably, from roughly the same period, we find similar leafy visages emerging from the ancient lands of Syria. These Syrian manifestations, often found in mosaics and stone carvings, echo the Roman examples in their depiction of faces adorned with or emerging from vegetation. The appearance of such similar motifs in geographically distant regions like Rome and Syria within the same historical timeframe is truly fascinating. It suggests either a parallel development of similar symbolic ideas rooted in shared human experiences of nature, or perhaps an ancient cross-cultural exchange of artistic motifs and symbolic representations across the vast Roman trade routes. One could imagine merchants and artisans traveling far and wide, carrying not just goods, but also ideas and designs that then took root and evolved in new lands. These early Roman and Syrian manifestations differ subtly yet significantly from the medieval European green man we often recognize. While they share the core concept of a human face interwoven with foliage, the Roman and Syrian versions often appear less mystical, less overtly pagan in their immediate context. They tend to be more decorative, integrated into broader historical or mythological narratives, rather than standing alone as a singular, powerful symbol of wild nature. They don't typically have the disgorging or bloodsucker aspects that became more prominent in later medieval carvings, which often carried a raw, untamed energy. This difference in portrayal might indicate a shift in interpretation over centuries, moving from a general acknowledgement of nature's bounty or the cycle of life to a more specific, perhaps even personified, representation of wild, generative power. These ancient roots suggest that the green man, or at least his conceptual ancestors, was not a sudden invention of the Middle Ages, but rather a long-standing, evolving motif with a deeper, more complex lineage connected to humanity's enduring fascination with the natural world. Given these ancient origins, one of the most perplexing and fascinating aspects of the green man's journey through history is its surprising and widespread prevalence in medieval Christian churches and cathedrals across Europe. This isn't just a handful of isolated examples. We're talking about a phenomenon, particularly during the Gothic period, where these leafy faces became an integral, enduring feature of sacred spaces. It presents an apparent paradox. How did a seemingly pagan, nature-based symbol not just survive but flourish within the very heart of Christian iconography? This question has puzzled historians and art enthusiasts for centuries, and exploring specific examples helps us understand the nuances of this integration. Perhaps one of the most famous and intriguing sites for green men is Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, a truly breathtaking example of 15th century Gothic architecture. Hidden amongst its incredibly intricate stone carvings, almost every pillar, arch, and ceiling boss seems to reveal a green man, sometimes subtle, sometimes strikingly overt. There are dozens of them, each distinct, with foliage emerging from mouths, noses, and eyes, creating a dense tapestry of leafy visages. The sheer abundance of green men at Rosslyn, a chapel steeped in Christian symbolism and widely known for its mystical connections, forces us to confront this paradox head-on. Were these carvings simply a nod to local folklore, a decorative flourish, or did they carry a deeper, perhaps even sanctioned, symbolic meaning within the Christian narrative of that time? The fact that they are so meticulously crafted and so numerous suggests they were far more than mere whims of the artisans. Moving south to England, Southwell Minster provides another remarkable collection of green men, particularly within its chapter house, which dates back to the late 13th century. Here, the carvings are celebrated for their extraordinary botanical accuracy, depicting a wide array of specific plant species: oak, ivy, hawthorn, vine, and more, each intricately interwoven with human faces. These aren't generic leaves, they are identifiable flora, suggesting a profound connection between the natural world and the spiritual space. The carvings at Southwell are often seen as a celebration of God's creation, a visual sermon on the beauty and diversity of the natural world. In this context, the green man might have been reinterpreted not as a pagan deity, but as a symbol of life, growth, and renewal, all of which align with core Christian teachings about creation and resurrection. It's a compelling argument that perhaps the Church absorbed and adapted existing symbols, giving them new meaning within its own theological framework. Then there's Chartres Cathedral in France, a quintessential example of high Gothic architecture, famed for its breathtaking stained glass and sculptural programs. Amidst the thousands of figures depicting biblical stories and saints, you can discover subtle yet powerful representations of the green man, often found on column capitals or hidden in the deeper recesses of the stonework. These green men at Chartres are less about botanical accuracy and more about raw, elemental energy, often appearing in their disgorging form. Their presence here, in one of the most significant pilgrimage sites of medieval Europe, suggests a broader acceptance or at least tolerance of these motifs within Orthodox Christian spaces. It raises the possibility that the green man might have served as a bridge between the spiritual and the earthly, a reminder of the wild, untamed aspects of creation that existed outside the ordered confines of human-made structures, yet were still part of God's dominion. The flourishing of the green man within Christian sacred spaces during the medieval period can be understood through several lenses. One perspective is that the Church, recognizing the deep-rooted pre-Christian beliefs and agricultural cycles that shaped the lives of its congregants, deliberately incorporated these familiar symbols. Rather than eradicate them, they were Christianized, reinterpreted to serve new theological purposes. The green man could symbolize renewed life, the triumph of life over death, the abundance of divine creation, or even the wildness of Eden before the fall. Another theory suggests that artisans, many of whom came from rural backgrounds and carried ancient folk traditions, simply continued to carve what they knew and loved, perhaps unchecked by distant ecclesiastical authorities who were more concerned with dogma than decorative details. It's also possible that the green man served as a visual metaphor for the ongoing battle between nature and spirit, the untamed wilderness versus the ordered world of humanity, or even as a representation of seasonal cycles within a Christian framework. Regardless of the precise interpretation, the widespread adoption of the green man within the hallowed halls of Christianity remains a testament to its powerful symbolic resonance and its enduring connection to humanity's relationship with the natural world. With a green man so deeply embedded in Christian architecture, it's only natural to ask if its roots stretch back even further into the pre-Christian pagan beliefs that once dominated Europe. One of the most compelling and widely discussed theories posits that the green man is a direct descendant, a cultural echo, of ancient Celtic vegetation deities. This theory often centers on figures like Cernunnos, the horned god of fertility, animals, and the forest, whose imagery bears striking resemblances to the leafy visages of the green man. Cernunnos, whose name likely means the horned one, is a prominent figure in Celtic mythology, known from archaeological finds across wide swaths of Europe, particularly Gaulish ancient French territories. He is typically depicted with antlers, sometimes holding torques, neck rings, and serpents surrounded by animals. While not explicitly covered in foliage in the same way as the green man, Cernunnos embodies the wildness of nature, its generative power, and its cyclical rhythms of life, death, and rebirth. His connection to the forest, to fertility, and to the animal kingdom aligns conceptually with the themes often associated with the green man. For instance, artifacts like the Gundestrup cauldron, a highly ornate silver vessel dating back to the 1st century BC, features a prominent depiction of Cernunnos seated cross-legged, surrounded by wild beasts, reinforcing his mastery over the natural world. This image, though distinct from the foliage-covered face, shares an undeniable thematic link to the untamed, vital essence symbolized by the green man. The fundamental idea of a powerful, semi-human entity deeply intertwined with the natural world forms a conceptual bridge between these two figures. The similarities in iconography, while not always direct, suggest a continuum of symbolic expression. When we look at some of the more archaic or wilder green man carvings, especially those with prominent horns or an intensely primal expression, it's not a huge leap to see echoes of Cernunnos or other ancient woodland spirits. The very act of emerging from or being consumed by foliage speaks to a connection with the raw, untamed forces of nature, forces that pagan societies revered and sought to appease. The seasonal festivals of ancient Celtic cultures, celebrating the turning of the year, the fertility of the land, and the bounty of the harvest, would have been rich with symbolism related to vegetation spirits and guardians of the wild. It's entirely plausible that the Green Man, in some form, was a visual representation of these deeper, older beliefs. Consider the historical context of conversion. As Christianity spread across Europe, it often encountered deeply entrenched local traditions and belief systems. Rather than attempting a wholesale eradication of these beliefs, which would have been met with fierce resistance, Christian missionaries often employed a strategy of assimilation and reinterpretation. This meant taking existing pagan sites, festivals, or symbols and giving them new Christian meanings. A sacred grove might become the site of a new church. A pagan festival might be redesignated as a Christian holiday. In this light, the Green Man presenting itself within a church might be seen as a prime example of this syncretism. An existing, widely recognized symbol of nature's power and fertility, perhaps already revered by the local populace, was not destroyed but rather integrated into the new spiritual framework. It could have served as a visual comfort blanket, making the new religion feel less alien, less disruptive to long-held traditions. This process of assimilation wasn't always explicit or intentional, but often organic. As stonemasons and artisans, many of whom were still rooted in traditional folk beliefs, were commissioned to decorate the burgeoning churches, they naturally incorporated motifs that were familiar and meaningful to them and to the communities they served. The Green Man, with its powerful connection to the land and its cycles, would have been a potent and instantly recognizable image for a largely agrarian population. Thus, it survived not necessarily as a pagan deity still being worshipped, but as a cultural memory, a visual motif carrying echoes of older reverence for the life-giving forces of nature, subtly woven into the Christian narrative of creation and divine providence. This ongoing dialogue between ancient beliefs and new spiritual frameworks highlights the incredible adaptability of symbols and the complex ways in which cultural heritage is preserved, even transformed over centuries. While the Celtic connection provides a compelling narrative for the Green Man's pagan origins, it's crucial to acknowledge the equally significant role that Roman influences likely played in shaping this enduring symbol and disseminating its visual forms across Europe. The vast reach of the Roman Empire, with its advanced architectural techniques and rich mythological pantheon, provided fertile ground for the early development and spread of leafy, human-like visages that bear a striking resemblance to the later Green Man. Consider, for instance, the Roman deities associated with nature and vegetation, particularly Bacchus, also known as Dionysus in Greek mythology. Bacchus was the god of wine, revelry, fertility, and wild vegetation. His cult was characterized by ecstatic rituals and a deep connection to the untamed aspects of nature. Images of Bacchus often feature him crowned with ivy or vine leaves, sometimes with grapes adorning his hair, embodying the lush, fertile abundance of the natural world. While not always depicted as a face emerging from foliage in the precise Green Man style, the pervasive imagery of a deity intrinsically linked to and adorned with leaves certainly established a powerful precedent. Sculptors and artists working within the Roman tradition were accustomed to blending human form with botanical elements in representations of Bacchus and his retinue, creating a visual language that celebrated the vital forces of nature. The sheer volume of Roman art featuring Bacchic themes, many of which would have been seen across the empire, could very well have imprinted the concept of a leafy, nature-attuned human face onto the artistic consciousness of the continent. Another significant Roman influence comes from Silvanus, the Roman god of woods, uncultivated lands, fields, and boundaries. Silvanus was a guardian spirit of the forests and countryside, often invoked by farmers and shepherds. His iconography, while less standardized than Bacchus, sometimes included elements of foliage, reflecting his dominion over the wild spaces. He was a more rustic, earthy deity, representing the protective yet also wild aspects of woodland. The Romans, with their widespread military and administrative presence, built cities, villas, and public structures throughout their empire, bringing their artistic conventions and mythological motifs with them. As Roman architectural elements, often rich with decorative carvings, were incorporated into the fabric of newly Romanized lands, the motifs featuring leafy faces or human-like figures entwined with plants would have traveled far and wide. These Roman architectural elements, adorned with their own versions of leafy faces, were not confined to Italy. They became part of a common artistic vocabulary that spread throughout the Roman provinces from Britain to the Middle East. When the Roman Empire eventually declined and its infrastructure began to crumble, the remnants of its artistic legacy remained. Medieval carvers, perhaps looking to ancient ruins for inspiration, or simply inheriting a long-established artistic tradition, might have encountered these Roman antecedents. It's plausible that the Roman practice of integrating natural forms with human figures in decorative architectural elements provided a direct visual lineage, a kind of artistic blueprint that medieval artisans adapted and reinterpreted. The Roman emphasis on order within nature, as expressed through their cultivated gardens and structured villas, stood in contrast to the later medieval green man's wilder, more untamed depiction. Yet the visual connection to a human-like face emerging from foliage undeniably links them. The empire's role as a cultural conduit, efficiently spreading ideas, art, and iconography across vast distances, cannot be overstated in the green man's journey. This extensive network ensured that such motifs were not isolated phenomena, but rather diffused across diverse geographical regions, laying down artistic roots that would later blossom into the myriad forms of the green man we recognize today. Beyond the static stone carvings and ancient Roman influences, the green man finds a pulsing, living connection within the vibrant tapestry of European folk traditions, perhaps most notably in the joyous and ancient celebrations of May Day. This annual festival, marking the arrival of summer and the blossoming of life, has for centuries featured a curious, leafy figure known as the Jack in the Green. This figure, often a man enclosed within a towering frame of woven branches, leaves, and flowers, would be paraded through villages, towns, and cities, dancing and bringing with him the spirit of the flourishing season. The visual parallel between the architectural green man, a human face entwined with foliage, and the Jack in the Green, a human figure engulfed in living greenery, is striking, prompting many scholars to consider them two sides of the same ancient coin, expressions of a shared, deep-seated reverence for nature's generative power. The Jack in the Green's performance was more than just a quaint parade. It was a ritual, a symbolic bringing in of the summer and its fertility. Imagine the scene. Villagers, after a long, cold winter, would eagerly anticipate the appearance of this verdant character. His presence was thought to bless the fields, awaken the dormant earth, and ensure bountiful harvests. The greenery he wore was not merely decoration. It embodied life itself, a tangible manifestation of the season's vitality. This figure, often accompanied by Morris dancers and musicians, would interact with the crowd, sometimes playfully, sometimes with a solemnity that hinted at deeper, forgotten meanings. The act of parading the Jack in the Green might be seen as a continuation of ancient vegetation rituals, where a spirit of growth was embodied and welcomed into the human community, ensuring prosperity and renewal. Historically, the Jack in the Green tradition became particularly prominent in England from the 17th century onwards, evolving from earlier May Day customs like milkmaids decorating their milk pails with garlands. Over time, these garlands grew larger and more elaborate, eventually enveloping the person carrying them entirely. While the direct lineage from ancient pagan rituals to the Jack in the Green is debated, the thematic continuities are undeniable. Both the architectural green man and the Jack in the Green serve as symbolic guardians of nature, personifications of the natural world's power to regenerate and sustain life. They represent the wild, untamed aspects of the environment, often associated with fertility, growth, and the cyclical rhythm of the seasons. The continued existence of the jack in the green in folk traditions provides a crucial living link to the potential meanings of the carved green man. While the stone faces in cathedrals are static, the jack in the green pulsates with life, embodying the very essence of seasonal renewal. This folk figure suggests that the ideas represented by the green man were not confined to church architecture or learned texts, but were alive and active in the popular imagination, celebrated annually by ordinary people. It reinforces the idea that the underlying concept of a human nature symbiosis, a spirit of the woods or a god of fertility, has been a persistent thread in European culture, adapting its form but retaining its core message. The jack in the green, by physically bringing the spirit of the woods into the community, offers a dynamic, performative dimension to the concept embodied by the passive, carved green man, highlighting how these ancient vegetation rituals continue to resonate and reshape themselves across centuries. With the green man's roots firmly planted in both ancient Roman and pre-Christian folk traditions, a crucial question emerges. How did this leafy figure function within the highly formalized and symbolically rich context of medieval Christian architecture? The placement of the green man in churches and cathedrals was rarely arbitrary. It was a deliberate choice intended to convey specific meanings within the complex web of medieval Christian symbolism. Analyzing its position can reveal much about its understood purpose, whether explicitly theological or subtly complementary to Christian doctrine. One prominent theory suggests that the green man, when carved into the fabric of a church, served as a powerful symbol of the vitality of nature and the divine act of creation. Churches, after all, were designed to be microcosms of the universe, reflecting God's order and glory. In this context, the green man, with its abundance of foliage and life, could represent the raw, untamed beauty of God's natural world, a constant reminder of the fecundity and creative power inherent in the universe. Imagine a worshipper entering a grand cathedral, their eyes drawn upwards to a green man carved amidst the vaulted ceilings or peering from a capital. This figure could subtly underscore the biblical narrative of creation, drawing parallels between the renewal of spring and the spiritual renewal offered by faith. For a largely agrarian society, deeply reliant on the cycles of nature for survival, the green man would have been an instantly recognizable embodiment of life's relentless push forward, a visual affirmation of the divine promise of abundance. Beyond general vitality, the green man's appearance in churches is often interpreted as an embodiment of the cycle of the seasons, particularly the rhythm of death and rebirth. Medieval life was intimately connected to the turning of the year, the dormancy of winter, the burgeoning life of spring, the lushness of summer, and the decay of autumn. The green man, especially in its foliate or disgorging forms, visually represents this continuous cycle. His face, often emerging from or consumed by leaves, perfectly encapsulates the idea that life springs anew from what appears to be death, just as new leaves emerge from seemingly dead branches. This cyclical understanding of nature resonated deeply with Christian teachings about resurrection and eternal life. The death and rebirth of the natural world became a powerful metaphor for Christ's resurrection and the promise of eternal life for believers. Placing the green man in areas such as baptismal fonts, which symbolize spiritual rebirth, or along the path to the altar, the place of communion and spiritual nourishment, would have reinforced this symbolic connection. The stone-silent green man was a continuous reminder that just as nature constantly renews itself, so too does faith offer a path to spiritual revitalization and eternal existence. Furthermore, the strategic placement of green men within specific parts of the church offers clues to their symbolic function. They are frequently found in areas of transition or liminal spaces, on doorways marking the threshold between the secular world and the sacred interior, on corbels supporting roofs suggesting a connection between the earthly structure and the heavens, or within the decorative elements of crypts, subtly hinting at the promise of resurrection even in death. For example, in many English churches, you find green men peering down from roof boss carvings, their leafy faces interspersed with angels, saints, and gargoyles. This coexistence suggests that the green man was not seen as an adversarial force, but rather as an integrated element within the broader Christian cosmological vision. It might have symbolized the natural world's participation in the divine order, a reminder that the sacred extends beyond the human-made sanctuary and permeates all of creation. In this view, the green man becomes a protective spirit, a guardian of the sacred space, linking the human sphere with the broader, wilder, and divinely ordained natural world. Its presence, therefore, was not a pagan intrusion, but a vital part of the medieval worldview, where the seen and unseen, the natural and the supernatural, were intricately woven together. The green man stands as a testament to the complex ways in which ancient symbols were reinterpreted and assimilated, testifying to the enduring power of nature in the human imagination within even the most sacred of spaces. While the green man's face, adorned with leaves and vines, is predominantly male, a fascinating and much rarer counterpart exists, the green woman. These figures, depicting female faces intertwined with foliage, are far less common than their masculine brethren, yet their presence raises intriguing questions about gender symbolism in medieval art and the broader green man tradition. Their scarcity itself offers a significant clue, hinting at prevailing societal attitudes towards nature, fertility, and power, and how these concepts were gendered in historical context. One of the most striking examples of a female vegetative figure, often linked conceptually to the green woman, is the Síle Nógig. These grotesque, often explicit, carvings of naked women displaying exaggerated genitalia are found primarily on medieval churches, castles, and other buildings, especially in Ireland, but also in parts of Britain, France, and Spain. While not typically adorned with foliage in the direct manner of a green man, their primal, earth-bound imagery, their association with fertility, protection, and sometimes a challenging, almost confrontational sexuality, places them within a similar symbolic orbit as figures connected to generative natural forces. The Síle Nógig's raw, unapologetic depiction of female reproductive power stands in stark contrast to the often more serene or contemplative green man, yet both figures represent aspects of life's powerful, sometimes wild origins. Their presence on sacred buildings suggests a complex interplay between Christian doctrine and older, pre-Christian beliefs concerning fertility and protection. Beyond the Síle Nógig, genuine green women, defined as female faces composed of or engulfed by foliage in the same style as green men, are notably rare. When they do appear, they are often subtle, sometimes requiring a keen eye to distinguish their feminine features from their male counterparts. This scarcity is a critical point of discussion. It could imply that the generative power of nature, particularly its wild, untamed, and often destructive aspects, was predominantly personified as masculine in medieval European culture. The male green man might have represented the active, dynamic force of growth, the spirit that pushes through the earth, or even the untamed wilderness that required conquering or channeling. In contrast, female figures were perhaps more often associated with cultivated fertility, the receptive earth, or figures like the Virgin Mary who represented a more ordered, sacred form of nature rather than its wild, unbridled power. The prevalence of the male green man and the rarity of the green woman might also reflect socio-cultural norms of the time, where male figures held dominant public roles even in symbolic representations of nature. While women were intrinsically linked to fertility and childbearing, the broader, more encompassing concept of nature's raw creative force might have been gendered masculine. This doesn't mean that medieval society disregarded female power or fertility, but rather that these were perhaps expressed through different symbolic forms, such as the nurturing mother figure or even the more explicit Síle Nógig, rather than a direct leafy counterpart to the green man. The occasional appearance of a green woman, however, reminds us that the concept of a powerful, leafy female presence was not entirely absent from the collective unconscious, even if it was less frequently carved into stone. These rare examples serve as vital clues, prompting us to consider the nuanced ways in which gender roles and perceptions of nature intersected within medieval symbolism, highlighting the predominantly masculine lens through which the green man tradition was largely envisioned and expressed in the architectural arts. While the green man is most commonly associated with European Christian and pagan contexts, a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of its mysterious journey across cultures is its surprising appearance in Islamic art and architecture. The presence of similar foliate head motifs in regions under Islamic influence, particularly during the medieval period, challenges simplistic notions of cultural isolation and instead points to either independent artistic developments or, more likely, a rich tapestry of cross-cultural exchange. These examples offer compelling evidence of universal human responses to the natural world, expressed through strikingly similar artistic forms, even across diverse religious and philosophical divides. Perhaps one of the most prominent and accessible examples of such motifs can be found in the breathtaking Alhambra in Granada, Spain. This iconic palace and fortress complex, built primarily during the Nasrid dynasty in the 13th and 14th centuries, is a masterpiece of Islamic art and architecture. While the Alhambra is renowned for its intricate geometric patterns, calligraphic inscriptions, and delicate arabesques, a closer look reveals unexpected elements that echo the green man. Within the stucco work, carved wood, and even painted decorations, you can discern stylized faces peeking out from lush, intertwining foliage. These are not direct replicas of European green men. They are typically more abstract, more integrated into the overall decorative scheme, and sometimes less explicitly anthropomorphic. However, the conceptual link, a human or human-like face emerging from or surrounded by leaves and vines, is undeniably present. Their inclusion suggests that the symbolic power of flourishing plant life combined with a human element held appeal even within an artistic tradition that generally eschewed figural representation. The appearance of these motifs in Islamic art raises important questions about their origins. Did this tradition develop independently, perhaps stemming from ancient Persian or Mesopotamian artistic conventions that predated Islam and celebrated the bounty of nature? Or was it a result of cultural exchange, particularly in regions like Al-Andalus, Islamic Spain, where Christian, Jewish, and Muslim cultures coexisted and interacted for centuries? Given the historical context, the latter explanation seems highly plausible. The Iberian Peninsula was a melting pot of ideas, artistic styles, and knowledge. Artisans, often working across religious boundaries, could have encountered and adapted motifs from various traditions. It's conceivable that European green man iconography, already developed from Roman and local pagan antecedents, filtered into Islamic artistic vocabularies, being then reinterpreted and stylized to fit the aesthetic and aniconic principles of Islamic art. These were not direct copies, but rather cultural borrowings that underwent a fascinating transformation. Beyond Al-Andalus, similar foliate head motifs can be found in other regions influenced by Islamic culture, hinting at a broader transmission. One might find them in textiles, ceramics, or even in the decorative arts of the Seljuk Turks or later Ottoman Empire, albeit often in a more abstract or highly stylized form. This widespread, though subtle, presence suggests a shared visual language where the life-giving properties of plants and their connection to human existence were recognized and celebrated. It speaks to a fundamental human fascination with growth, vitality, and the interconnectedness of all living things, irrespective of religious dogma. The green man motif, in its various guises across European and Islamic traditions, serves as a powerful testament to art's ability to transcend cultural and religious barriers, offering a glimpse into universal aspects of the human experience and our timeless relationship with the natural world. Its journey from Roman tombs to medieval cathedrals and Islamic palaces underscores a shared artistic vocabulary that continues to resonate across centuries and continents. Despite its widespread integration into medieval churches and its ancient roots, the Green Man didn't maintain its prominent position indefinitely. Following the zenith of its medieval popularity, the Green Man largely faded from public view, becoming a forgotten curiosity for several centuries. This decline can be largely attributed to two powerful forces that swept across Europe: the Protestant Reformation and the Renaissance. Each, in its own way, contributed to a profound shift in religious attitudes and artistic styles, rendering the leafy face increasingly out of step with the prevailing cultural currents. The Protestant Reformation, beginning in the 16th century, brought with it a significant change in how religious imagery was perceived and utilized. Reformers often viewed elaborate, symbolic carvings, particularly those with pre-Christian or folk origins, with suspicion. They advocated for simpler, more direct forms of worship, emphasizing the written word of the Bible over visual spectacle. This push towards iconoclasm, or the destruction of religious images, meant that many churches were stripped of their decorative elements, and new constructions opted for a more austere aesthetic. The Green Man, with its ambiguous symbolism and perceived pagan associations, likely fell victim to this new religious zeal. It simply didn't fit into the Reformed Church's vision of a purified, unadorned sacred space. Imagine a newly converted community eager to demonstrate its commitment to Reformed doctrines, systematically removing anything that hinted at older, supposedly superstitious practices. The Green Man, with its wild, untamed nature, would have been an obvious target for suspicion and removal. Simultaneously, the Renaissance, with its renewed focus on classical antiquity, humanism, and rationalism, also contributed to the Green Man's diminished popularity. As Europe moved into the early modern period, artistic taste shifted dramatically. The intricate, often grotesque, and highly symbolic carvings of the medieval era were increasingly seen as crude and unsophisticated. Renaissance artists and patrons favored the idealized forms of Greek and Roman sculpture, harmonious proportions, and a more naturalistic, albeit idealized, depiction of the human form. The wild, unbridled, and sometimes unsettling imagery of the Green Man simply didn't align with this new aesthetic. It was too barbaric, too rooted in a past that the intellectual elite sought to move beyond. Instead of leafy faces, architects now preferred classical motifs, elegant scrolls, and more controlled, symmetrical ornamentation. The wild energy of the Green Man was replaced by a more refined, academic approach to art and architecture, pushing the ancient symbol firmly into the shadows of obscurity. For centuries, the Green Man remained largely forgotten, a silent presence in crumbling ruins or an overlooked detail in antique buildings. However, the 19th century witnessed a remarkable turnaround, a passionate rediscovery and reintroduction of the Green Man during the highly influential Gothic revival movement. This architectural and artistic trend sought to revive the style and spirit of medieval Gothic architecture, which was now seen as embodying spiritual depth, authenticity, and a connection to a romanticized past, in stark contrast to the perceived coldness of neoclassicism. Architects like Augustus Pugin, a leading figure in the English Gothic revival, were deeply committed to this resurgence. Pugin, a devout Catholic, believed that Gothic architecture was not only aesthetically superior but also morally and spiritually uplifting. He meticulously studied medieval cathedrals and churches, documenting their decorative elements and advocating for their faithful reproduction in new constructions and restorations. It was through this fervent archaeological and artistic interest that the Green Man was brought back into the spotlight. Pugin and his contemporaries, appreciating the intricate detail and symbolic richness of medieval carving, rediscovered the leafy face and enthusiastically incorporated it into their design. Consider, for example, the before and after scenario of a Victorian church restoration. Before the Gothic revival, a medieval church might have survived centuries of neglect, its original green man carvings weathered and unappreciated. Post-Gothic revival, a Pugin-influenced architect might embark on a meticulous restoration, not only preserving existing green men but also commissioning new ones, often in prominent locations. New churches built during this period were adorned with green men on their doors, pulpits, and capitals, just as their medieval predecessors had been. These new carvings, while often reflecting Victorian sensibilities in their execution, unequivocally signaled a conscious effort to reconnect with the imagery of the past. The green man, once a symbol of wild nature and possibly pagan beliefs, was now reinterpreted as a charming, picturesque, and ultimately safe symbol of medieval quaintness, a testament to the enduring craft and spiritual connection of a bygone era. This revival wasn't a return to paganism, but rather an aesthetic and historical reclamation, allowing the green man to once again peer from the stone, bridging centuries of cultural and artistic shifts. The green man's journey from forgotten medieval carving to modern cultural icon truly gained momentum in the 20th century, largely thanks to a pivotal academic work that captured the imagination of writers, artists, and scholars alike. Sir James Fraser's monumental 12-volume study, The Golden Bough, first published between 1890 and 1915. Fraser, a Scottish anthropologist, meticulously compiled a vast array of myths, rituals, and folklore from around the world, arguing for a universal pattern in human thought, particularly concerning magic, religion, and the concept of vegetation deities linked to cyclical death and rebirth. While Fraser didn't explicitly name the green man, his extensive discussions of ancient tree spirits, corn spirits, and the rituals surrounding the killing and revival of nature gods provided a profound intellectual framework that resonated deeply with the visual motif of the leafy face. He painted a picture of a shared, primal human connection to the land and its cycles, providing a scholarly validation for the kind of nature-based symbolism the green man embodied. The Golden Bough essentially provided the intellectual landscape upon which the seeds of the green man's modern resurgence could be sown, giving academic weight to what had previously been mere folk superstition or decorative art. This influential work opened floodgates for a generation of writers, artists, and thinkers who were grappling with the rapid industrialization and perceived spiritual emptiness of the modern world. They found in Fraser's theories, and by extension in the green man, a powerful symbol of humanity's ancient, often forgotten, connection to nature, to the wild, and to the vital forces of life itself. One of the most prominent writers to be profoundly influenced by this burgeoning interest in primal nature and Fraser's ideas was D.H. Lawrence, a novelist whose works often explored themes of sexuality, industrialism versus nature, and the unconscious drives of humanity. Though he rarely mentioned the green man explicitly, Lawrence's characters and narratives are infused with a deep, almost mystical reverence for the untamed natural world, for the blood consciousness that he believed modern society had suppressed. His writings frequently feature powerful, almost pagan figures who embody raw, earthy vitality, much like the spirit of the green man himself. Think of the intense natural landscapes in works like Lady Chatterley's Lover or the primal urges explored in The Plumed Serpent. These are literary echoes of the same powerful, ancient forces that the green man represents, a challenge to the sterile rationality of modern life. Similarly, E.M. Forster, another celebrated British novelist, explored the clash between conventional society and the liberating, almost pagan forces of nature. In his novels, particularly A Room with a View, set in Italy, Forster introduces characters who are stifled by English social conventions, but find liberation and spiritual awakening through exposure to the more natural, sensual, and uninhibited Italian landscape and culture. While the Green Man isn't a direct character, the overall atmosphere and the symbolic weight given to nature as a source of truth and vitality in Forster's work resonate with the Green Man's essence. His narratives often suggest that true fulfillment lies in shedding societal constraints and reconnecting with a more authentic, perhaps even primal, self, a journey that the Green Man, as a symbol of untamed nature, implicitly champions. These authors, along with others such as Robert Graves, whose The White Goddess further explored ancient European mythology and fertility cults, contributed to a rich literary environment where the Green Man, both as a direct image and as a broader concept of nature's indomitable spirit, could thrive and find new meaning. The revitalization of interest in the Green Man in 20th century literature wasn't just an academic exercise. It was a cultural phenomenon that pulled the ancient symbol out of the dusty archives and into contemporary consciousness. Writers inspired by Fraser and their own existential questions about modernity began to weave the imagery and themes of the Green Man into their narratives, effectively popularizing it beyond the realm of art history and folklore studies. This literary reawakening gave the Green Man new layers of meaning. It became a symbol of environmentalism, a critique of industrial progress, a representation of the unconscious mind, or a reminder of humanity's inseparable link to the earth. The symbol became a flexible and powerful metaphor for the wildness that persists within us and around us, even in an increasingly urbanized world. This literary embrace ensured that the Green Man wasn't merely a relic of the past but a dynamic, evolving symbol, ready to capture the hearts and minds of new generations and prompt them to look anew at the leafy faces hidden in plain sight. In the modern era, the Green Man has transcended its historical and artistic roles to become a potent and widely adopted symbol for environmental and conservation movements. This ancient motif, with its deep-rooted connection to nature and its enduring presence across cultures, has found a powerful new purpose in advocating for ecological awareness and sustainability. Its transition into this role feels entirely natural, almost predestined, given its core essence as a personification of the wild, flourishing earth. Many environmental organizations and grassroots conservation groups have embraced the Green Man as their emblem. His visage, often depicted with a benevolent or watchful expression, conveys a sense of guardianship over the natural world. For these groups, the Green Man isn't just a decorative image. He embodies the very spirit of the planet, reminding humanity of its intrinsic link to the ecosystem and the urgent need to protect it. For instance, some local land trusts or woodland preservation societies use the Green Man in their logos, on their literature, or as mascots for their initiatives. His image serves as an instantly recognizable shorthand for their mission: to re-establish a balance with nature, to promote sustainable living, and to advocate for the preservation of wild spaces. The Green Man, in this context, becomes a silent spokesperson for the trees, the rivers, and the wild creatures, urging us to listen to the ancient wisdom embedded in the natural world. The power of the Green Man as an ecological emblem stems directly from its ancient connection to nature. For millennia, this figure has represented the generative force of the earth, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, and the untamed wilderness that lies beyond human control. In an age dominated by concerns about climate change, deforestation, and biodiversity loss, these ancient associations resonate more strongly than ever. The Green Man serves as a powerful reminder that humanity is not separate from nature, but an integral part of it. His leafy face symbolizes the interconnectedness of all living things, emphasizing that damage to one part of the natural world inevitably impacts the whole. He encourages a worldview where the earth is not merely a resource to be exploited, but a living entity to be respected and cherished, echoing primal beliefs that honored the spirit residing within every tree and every stream. This deep historical resonance lends an almost spiritual weight to the modern conservation message, grounding it in a heritage far older than industrialization. Examples of the green man motif appearing in contemporary art and activism are abundant and diverse. You can find street art murals in urban centers depicting the green man reclaiming concrete landscapes with vibrant foliage, symbolizing the resilience of nature even in the most built-up environments. Sculptors create large-scale installations of green man figures in public parks and botanical gardens, inviting contemplation on humanity's place within the natural order. Environmental festivals often feature performers dressed as the green man, leading parades or participating in rituals that celebrate ecological awareness. Even in protest movements, imagery inspired by the green man can be seen on banners and signs, advocating for forest protection or clean energy policies. These artistic and activist expressions harness the green man's potent visual language to communicate complex environmental messages in an accessible and emotionally resonant way. He becomes a powerful figurehead for a movement seeking to rekindle humanity's reverence for the earth and to inspire a more harmonious relationship with the living world, moving beyond mere sustainability to a true flourishing of both human and natural communities. Beyond its historical and cultural appearances, the green man has also captured the attention of modern psychology, particularly within the framework of Jungian analysis. Here, this ancient symbol is not merely a piece of art or folklore, but a powerful representation of a deep-seated human archetype, a universal pattern embedded in the collective unconscious. Through this lens, the green man takes on renewed relevance, speaking to fundamental aspects of the human psyche and our intrinsic connection to the natural world. Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, proposed the concept of archetypes as innate, universal prototypes for ideas and images, part of the collective unconscious shared by all humans. These archetypes manifest in dreams, myths, religions, and art across cultures. In Jungian psychology, the green man can be interpreted as an archetype representing the wild, untamed aspects of nature within the human psyche. He embodies the forces of growth, regeneration, instinct, and primal energy that lie beneath the veneer of civilized consciousness. He is the voice of the earth, the urge for fertility, and the wisdom of the natural world, all residing within us. This interpretation suggests that our fascination with the green man isn't just about admiring ancient carvings. It's about recognizing a part of ourselves, a deep, often suppressed connection to our biological and ecological roots. His leafy visage becomes a mirror reflecting our own wild, creative, and sometimes chaotic inner landscape. This psychological reading of the green man brings to light how the modern human condition might be out of sync with these primal energies. In an increasingly urbanized and technology-driven world, many people feel disconnected from nature, from their own bodies, and from the intuitive, non-rational aspects of their being. The green man archetype, therefore, serves as a powerful reminder of what might be lost or neglected. His presence symbolizes the need to reconnect with these deeper layers of the self, to acknowledge the rhythms of growth and decay, and to embrace the inherent wildness that still exists within each individual. When individuals encounter the green man, whether in ancient architecture or contemporary art, it can evoke a profound sense of recognition, a longing for wholeness that integrates the conscious, rational mind with the unconscious, instinctual self. He represents the living, breathing, growing part of the psyche that yearns for expression and connection to the larger web of life. The green man in psychological terms can also be seen as a symbol of individuation, Jung's concept of becoming one's whole self. This process involves integrating conscious and unconscious aspects of the personality, including the shadow side or the parts of ourselves we might repress or deny. The wild, sometimes grotesque or unsettling features of certain green man carvings, particularly the Bloodsucker Head, can be understood as representing these darker, more instinctual or even destructive facets of nature that must be acknowledged and integrated rather than rejected. Just as nature includes both beauty and brutality, life and death, so too does the human psyche contain a full spectrum of experiences and energies. The green man, in this sense, encourages a holistic view of the self, one that embraces all aspects of human experience, including the primal urges and the cyclical nature of existence. He invites us to explore the depths of our own unconscious, to unearth the wisdom and vitality that resides there, and to bring it into conscious awareness, fostering a more authentic and integrated way of being in the world. This enduring symbol thus continues to offer profound insights not only into history and ecology, but also into the very architecture of the human soul. While the green man, as we commonly know him, is deeply rooted in European history and tradition, it would be a disservice to limit our understanding of this profound symbol to just one continent. Indeed, when we cast our gaze further afield, we discover that the concept of a human-like figure intimately connected with vegetation, fertility, and the spirit of nature is a recurring motif across diverse cultures worldwide. This global presence suggests a universal human impulse to personify the life-giving forces of the natural world, hinting at shared archetypal connections that transcend geographical and cultural boundaries. A comparative analysis reveals fascinating parallels and distinct interpretations, each reflecting a culture's unique relationship with its environment. In the rich tapestry of Hindu mythology, for example, we find figures who, while not directly analogous to the green man's leafy visage, embody similar principles of nature's guardianship and life-sustaining power. Lord Krishna, one of the most revered deities in Hinduism, is often depicted in close association with forests, particularly the sacred groves of Vrindavan. He is known as the protector of cows and the natural environment, playing his flute amidst the trees, enchanting all living beings. His narratives emphasize harmony with nature, and his childhood exploits often involve him interacting with and safeguarding the forests and their creatures. While Krishna himself is not depicted as emerging from foliage, his deep connection to and role as a benevolent protector of the woodlands echoes the green man's essence as a spirit of life and growth. Moreover, concepts like Vana devatas or forest deities and Gram devatas or village deities in Hinduism signify localized nature spirits, often residing in trees or specific groves, who are revered for their protective and generative powers, a diffused yet pervasive form of nature personification. These deities underscore a spiritual reverence for the living landscape that resonates with the green man's core symbolism. Moving to the African continent, an incredible diversity of nature spirits and deities exists, reflecting the profound spiritual connection many African cultures have with their environment. While there isn't a single green man equivalent, numerous traditions feature spirits inextricably linked to forests, rivers, mountains, and specific trees. For example, among the Yoruba people of West Africa, deities like Oshun, who presides over fresh waters, fertility, and love, and Ogun, who is associated with iron, war, and the clearing of forests, demonstrate a deep respect for natural forces. More directly related to the green man are spirits such as the forest deities among various groups, who are believed to reside within sacred trees or groves and act as guardians of the wilderness. These spirits are not always depicted with human faces emerging from leaves, but their essence as the living manifestation of the forest, providing sustenance, protection, and sometimes challenging human trespass, parallels the green man's role as a potent symbol of nature's untamed power and generosity. Rituals involving offerings made to trees or specific natural sites further highlight this profound, animate connection to the environment. Across the vast and varied landscape of Native American cultures, The spiritual connection to the land and its creatures is paramount, often expressed through complex mythologies featuring powerful forest entities and nature spirits. Many tribes have traditions of tree people or spirits dwelling within specific plants, bestowing blessings or requiring respect. For instance, some Navajo traditions speak of holy people who embody natural forces, while many eastern woodlands tribes revere the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, as sacred life-givers personified through their spirits. While explicit foliate heads are not a common artistic motif, the fundamental belief in the animacy of nature and the presence of spirits within trees, rocks, and water bodies is a core principle. The concept of the Great Spirit often encompasses all of nature, and specific beings are seen as manifestations of this larger force. These beliefs emphasize reciprocity, respect for all living things, and the understanding that humanity is part of, not separate from, the natural world. A philosophical underpinning that aligns perfectly with the ecological message that the Green Man now carries. In East Asian cultures, particularly in Japan and China, nature deities are abundant, albeit often conceptualized differently from the Green Man. In Japan, Shintoism reveres kami, divine spirits that inhabit natural objects, places, and phenomena, including trees, mountains, and rivers. While not personified with leafy faces, the notion of a living, potent spiritual essence residing within nature is strikingly similar. Sacred groves often surround Shinto shrines, emphasizing the purity and spiritual power of untouched nature. In Chinese folklore, various tree spirits and mountain deities are revered, often depicted as wise, ancient beings who oversee the balance of their domain. For example, the god of the mountain, or Shan Shen, is a protective deity often depicted as a venerable figure intertwined with the landscape. While these figures may not visually resemble the European Green Man, they share the role of embodying and protecting the spirit of vegetation and the natural world. This global survey demonstrates that the Green Man, in its essence, represents a universal archetype, humanity's ancient and enduring relationship with the life-giving, wild, and sometimes mysterious forces of nature, expressed in myriad forms across cultures and centuries, serving as a constant reminder of our deep ecological roots. With the Green Man's universal appeal across diverse cultures now clear, let's pivot back to its most prominent historical manifestation, the architectural Green Man in Europe. A fascinating aspect of this motif is its uneven geographical distribution across the continent. When you map out the known instances of Green Man carvings, a clear pattern emerges. Certain regions boast a remarkable concentration of these leafy faces, while others show only scattered examples or none at all. This visual map, with its distinct hotspots and cold spots, isn't arbitrary. It reflects a complex interplay of historical, religious, and artistic factors, including ancient trade routes, the reach of powerful monastic networks, and strong regional artistic traditions that particularly favored this unique motif. The British Isles, especially England, stand out as an undeniable stronghold for the Green Man. From the intricate carvings of medieval cathedrals to countless parish churches, the leafy face seems to peer out from almost every corner. Places like Southwell Minster, with its unparalleled collection of naturalistic carvings, or the many hidden green men within the naves and chancels of smaller country churches, testify to a deeply ingrained and persistent tradition. This concentration can be attributed to several factors. Firstly, Britain's strong pre-Christian reverence for nature and its spirits likely provided fertile ground for the motif to take root and be reinterpreted. The Celtic heritage, with its woodland deities and emphasis on the sacredness of trees, would have found a natural visual expression in the Green Man. Secondly, the insular nature of British artistic traditions, while not entirely isolated, often allowed for the distinctive development and retention of certain motifs once they took hold. The long-standing craft of stonemasonry in England, coupled with a general enthusiasm for elaborate, often whimsical, decorative elements in ecclesiastical architecture provided ample opportunity for the green man to flourish. Across the English Channel, France also emerges as a significant epicenter for green man carvings, particularly in its Gothic cathedrals. From the grand scale of Chartres and Notre Dame to the smaller, yet equally impressive regional churches, countless examples of foliate heads can be found. The French contribution is crucial because during the Romanesque and early Gothic periods, France was a powerhouse of architectural innovation and artistic influence, often setting trends that spread across Europe. The sheer volume of church-building activities during these centuries provided an enormous canvas for masons and sculptors. The distribution within France itself can sometimes align with ancient Roman trade routes and the territories of powerful monastic orders like the Cistercians and Benedictines. Monasteries, as centers of learning, craft, and pilgrimage, often became conduits for artistic ideas, with monks and lay artisans traveling between foundations, exchanging designs and techniques. The green man, perhaps initially brought north from Roman precedents or developed organically within local traditions, found a strong footing here, evolving into the powerful and often dramatic disgorging forms seen in many French religious edifices. Germany, particularly its Rhineland region, also displays a notable presence of green man carvings, albeit often with a distinct character. German examples frequently exhibit a more robust, sometimes almost grotesque, quality compared to their French or English counterparts, hinting at a different local interpretation of the motif. This regional variation underscores how the green man wasn't merely copied but reinterpreted through the lens of local artistic sensibilities. The monastic networks that crisscrossed the Holy Roman Empire played a vital role in this distribution. Monks, acting as disseminators of knowledge and artistic styles, ensured that popular motifs like the green man would be carried along the pilgrimage routes and trade arteries connecting major cities and religious sites. The consistent patronage of church building, especially from the Romanesque period onwards, ensured a continuous demand for skilled artisans familiar with such decorative elements. Looking at the broader European context, the density of green man sightings tends to thin out as you move towards Eastern and Southern Europe, though isolated examples can still be found. For instance, while Italy, the birthplace of Roman art, has early precursors, the medieval green man in the typical leafy face form is less ubiquitous than in the north. This might be partly due to the stronger and more continuous influence of classical Roman and Byzantine artistic traditions, which had different decorative priorities and symbolic vocabularies. Similarly, in Eastern Europe, other iconographic traditions and artistic influences, such as those from Byzantium, took precedence. The geographical distribution of green man carvings, therefore, provides a tangible map of cultural exchange, artistic preferences, and the intricate web of medieval communication. Where trade routes flourished, new ideas and motifs traveled. Where powerful monastic orders established their presence, artistic styles could be disseminated efficiently. And where regional artistic traditions embraced a certain aesthetic, it flourished. The green man's uneven spread across Europe is not a sign of its limited appeal, but rather a testament to the dynamic interplay between deep-seated local beliefs and broader cultural influences, all leaving their leafy imprint on the stone fabric of the continent's most enduring structures. Beyond its presence in churches and folk traditions, the green man has also stepped into the shadowy world of secret societies, particularly Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism. This is where theories about hidden meanings and veiled symbolism truly thrive. For many, the very ambiguity of the green man's origins and purpose makes it a perfect candidate for esoteric interpretations, sparking speculation about whether it carried a deeper, coded message for these exclusive groups. It's a fascinating corner of the green man's story, one that requires careful navigation to separate documented facts from intriguing, yet often unproven, conjecture. Freemasonry, with its rich history of symbolism drawn from ancient operative masonry and its own unique philosophical framework, is often linked to the Green Man. While the Green Man is not an official, universally recognized symbol within mainstream Masonic rituals or teachings, some Masonic lodges and buildings, particularly those constructed during the Gothic revival period in the 19th century, do feature Green Man carvings. These instances are often attributed to the general architectural trends of the time, where incorporating medieval motifs was fashionable, rather than a direct symbolic instruction from Masonic doctrine. However, proponents of the hidden meaning theory suggest that for Masons, the Green Man might have represented ideas such as the generative principle of nature, the cyclical journey of spiritual growth, or even the hidden wisdom of the earth. Given that Masonic symbolism frequently emphasizes building, growth, and the creation of a moral and spiritual temple, a figure symbolizing natural genesis could align conceptually. For example, some Masonic halls or temples in England, built in the late 1800s or early 1900s, might have a Green Man carved into a doorway or a capital, reflecting the architect's or patron's personal interest in medieval revivalism, which then gets interpreted by some as an esoteric inclusion by a secret society. Rosicrucianism, an esoteric philosophical movement with roots in the early 17th century, also enters the conversation. Characterized by its blend of Hermeticism, alchemy, and Christian mysticism, Rosicrucianism often uses complex allegorical symbols to convey its teachings on spiritual enlightenment and hidden knowledge. While direct, explicit textual references to the Green Man within core Rosicrucian texts are rare, the themes of nature's hidden forces, the transformation of matter, and the pursuit of spiritual illumination through understanding the natural world resonate strongly with the Green Man's symbolic essence. Some theorists propose that the Green Man, as a symbol of life's regenerative power and nature's mysteries, could have served as a subtle, visual callback to alchemical processes of growth and transformation, or the Rosicrucian quest for a deeper understanding of the divine immanent in creation. This connection is more speculative than the Masonic one, often resting on thematic similarities rather than explicit evidence. The secrecy inherent in these societies, even if only perceived, often fuels such theories, creating a fertile ground for attributing hidden meanings to any ambiguous symbol found within their sphere. When examining specific examples, it's crucial to exercise caution. Many historical buildings, even those later acquired or associated with secret societies, were originally constructed for other purposes and may have already incorporated Green Man motifs as part of a broader architectural tradition. Attributing the presence of a Green Man solely to the esoteric beliefs of a later occupying society can be a form of eisegesis, reading a meaning into the evidence rather than deriving it from the evidence itself. For instance, a historic building might have been a church or a public hall long before it became a Masonic lodge. If it has Green Man carvings, were they placed there by the original builders with their own intent or by the later Masonic occupants? Disentangling these layers of history is challenging. However, some researchers point to instances where the Green Man appears in contexts that seem more deliberate than mere architectural fashion. For instance, if a Green Man carving is found specifically within a later, purpose-built, and highly symbolic part of a Masonic temple, rather than just on an exterior facade, it might lend more credence to a conscious inclusion. One common thread in these secret society theories is the idea that the Green Man represents a continuum of ancient knowledge, passed down through generations and preserved in hidden forms. For some, the Green Man symbolizes a primordial wisdom about the Earth's cycles, fertility, and the interconnectedness of all life, knowledge that these societies, in their pursuit of enlightenment and understanding of universal laws, sought to preserve and transmit. This aligns with the broader esoteric tradition of viewing nature as a source of profound spiritual truths, often accessible only to the initiated, while concrete, verifiable evidence linking the Green Man as an explicit, codified symbol within the rituals or secret teachings of Freemasonry or Rosicrucianism remains elusive in public scholarship, the conceptual fit is undeniable. It highlights how powerful, evocative symbols like the Green Man can be adopted, reinterpreted, and imbued with new layers of meaning within different cultural and philosophical contexts, especially those that value hidden knowledge and symbolic language. The mystery surrounding these groups, combined with the Green Man's own enigmatic nature, creates an irresistible draw for those seeking deeper connections and veiled narratives, ensuring that this line of inquiry, whether substantiated or not, will continue to fascinate. While the Green Man's journey through history is already rich with hidden meanings and ancient lore, his story doesn't end in the dusty archives of medieval churches or the speculative realms of secret societies. In fact, a vibrant new chapter has opened in the modern era, as contemporary artists across various mediums have enthusiastically embraced and reinterpreted this enigmatic figure. From sculptures and paintings to digital art and large-scale installations, these artists are not merely replicating the past, they are breathing new life into the ancient symbol, imbuing it with fresh meanings that resonate deeply with today's world, particularly concerning urgent ecological concerns. This modern artistic renaissance ensures that the Green Man remains a living, evolving symbol, perpetually relevant and perpetually captivating. One of the most striking ways modern artists have reinterpreted the Green Man is through sculpture. You can find him carved from wood, molded in clay, cast in bronze, or even fashioned from recycled materials, often emerging in gardens, public parks, or private collections. These sculptures frequently emphasize the Green Man's connection to nature, presenting him not just as a face, but as an integral part of the landscape. For instance, some sculptors create figures where the Green Man's features are formed directly from intertwined branches, moss, or living plants, blurring the lines between art and nature. Imagine walking through a contemporary garden exhibition and encountering a colossal Green Man head, its eyes formed by hollowed-out tree burls and its hair a cascade of living ivy. These pieces often serve as powerful reminders of environmental fragility and the resilience of nature, urging viewers to consider their own relationship with the earth. Artists might use reclaimed timber or discarded industrial materials to construct their green men, subtly commenting on humanity's impact on natural resources, transforming waste into a symbol of regeneration and hope. Beyond three-dimensional forms, the Green Man has also found a new canvas in painting and digital art. Artists use traditional brushes and modern software to depict the leafy face in myriad styles, from intricate, almost photorealistic renderings to abstract conceptual pieces. In painting, he might appear in lush, dreamlike landscapes, a guardian spirit overseeing a pristine forest, or conversely, a haunting presence lamenting ecological destruction. Digital artists, with their ability to manipulate images and create dynamic compositions, have explored the Green Man's transformative qualities, showing him morphing between human and plant forms or interacting with changing technological landscapes. Some digital installations project animated Green Man faces onto buildings or natural surfaces, creating immersive experiences that highlight nature's power and fragility. These digital interpretations often push the boundaries of traditional representation, allowing the Green Man to become a fluid, adaptable symbol capable of conveying complex narratives about humanity's future on a rapidly changing planet. They can be found in online galleries, public art projections, and even integrated into virtual reality experiences, reaching a global audience far beyond the confines of a physical art gallery. A significant driver behind these modern interpretations is undoubtedly the growing awareness and concern for ecological issues. The Green Man, with his primal connection to the earth and its cycles, has become a natural emblem for environmentalism, conservation, and the burgeoning movement for rewilding. Artists are using his image to advocate for sustainable practices, to mourn lost wilderness, and to inspire a renewed sense of stewardship for the planet. For many, he represents the spirit of the wild that is under threat, a voice for the voiceless natural world. Some artists depict the Green Man with expressions of sorrow or anger, reflecting the distress caused by deforestation, pollution, and climate change. Others portray him with resolute eyes, symbolizing nature's enduring power and its capacity for healing if given the chance. He becomes a rallying cry, a visual manifesto for a return to harmony with the earth. Ultimately, these contemporary artistic interpretations serve a vital purpose. They keep the ancient symbol alive and relevant, allowing it to transcend its historical context and speak to modern sensibilities. By recontextualizing the Green Man within contemporary artistic practices and linking him to pressing global issues like climate change and biodiversity loss, artists are ensuring that this ancient figure continues to provoke thought, inspire action, and connect humanity to its deepest roots in the natural world. He is no longer just a relic of the past. He is a vibrant, living symbol, constantly evolving and adapting, reminding us that the mysteries of nature and our place within them are timeless and ever-present. From the stone faces of forgotten cathedrals to the digital screens of our modern world, the Green Man continues his silent vigil, a testament to humanity's enduring fascination with the wild heart of the world. The Green Man's journey from ancient stone carving to modern cultural icon culminates in his widespread and often surprising appearances across popular culture. He's no longer confined to the hushed sanctity of cathedrals or the dusty pages of academic texts. He now strides through the fantastical landscapes of movies, haunts the screens of television shows, battles within the intricate worlds of video games, and breathes life into the pages of fantasy literature. These modern interpretations, while sometimes distorting the original symbol, reveal a profound and continuing fascination with nature spirits and humanity's complex relationship with the wild. In the realm of fantasy literature, the Green Man often takes on a more heroic or benevolent role, acting as a guardian of nature, a mentor to protagonists, or even a powerful, ancient being whose awakening signals a major shift in the world's balance. Writers frequently draw on his association with fertility, growth, and the cycles of life and death, weaving these themes into intricate narratives. Neil Gaiman, a master of modern mythology, has subtly woven Green Man-like figures into his works, such as American Gods, where ancient deities and primal forces often contend with the modern world. While not explicitly named the Green Man, characters representing the spirit of the land or embodying raw, untamed nature are common, echoing his essence. Similarly, in the broader subgenre of ecological fantasy, figures akin to the Green Man might rise to protect forests from encroaching civilization or guide humans towards a more sustainable way of life. These literary interpretations often emphasize the Green Man's wisdom and his role as a bridge between the human and natural worlds, presenting him as a powerful force for good against environmental destruction or spiritual apathy. However, the Green Man's presence in popular culture is not always benign. He also lurks in the shadows of horror films and dark fantasy, tapping into the more primal, unsettling aspects of nature. Here, the bloodsucker head iteration, with its tendrils emerging from eyes and mouth, often serves as inspiration. In these darker interpretations, the Green Man can become a symbol of nature's vengeance, a monstrous entity that punishes humanity for its transgressions against the environment. Think of films where ancient forest spirits rise to unleash fury upon those who defile their sacred groves, or creatures that are literally made of the forest, enacting terrifying retribution. This portrayal highlights a deep-seated human fear of the untamed, the wild forces that can overwhelm human civilization. This transformation from a benevolent guardian to a terrifying avenger reflects anxieties about environmental collapse and humanity's destructive tendencies. The Green Man, in this context, embodies the terrifying power of a natural world pushed to its limits, reminding us that nature can be both beautiful and brutal, nurturing and terrifyingly indifferent. Video games, with their immersive worlds and interactive narratives, have also embraced the Green Man, adapting him to fit various roles. In some games, he might appear as a non-player character, providing quests or wisdom related to lore, often serving as an ancient oracle or a spirit guiding players through natural landscapes. His image might be incorporated into environmental puzzles or act as a visual clue indicating sacred or wild areas. In other instances, he might be a powerful boss character, representing nature's defense against encroaching evil or industrial blight, challenging players to respect the natural order. His appearance in games can range from direct visual references to more conceptual interpretations, where the core idea of a nature spirit with powerful, restorative, or destructive abilities is central to gameplay mechanics. For example, a character might have abilities linked to growing vines, controlling plants, or communing with wild animals, all echoing the Green Man's domain. The pervasive presence of the Green Man in diverse forms of popular culture, from children's stories to adult horror, speaks volumes about our enduring fascination with nature spirits. It reveals a collective yearning for connection to the natural world, even as modern life increasingly distances us from it. Whether he appears as a wise old guardian, a terrifying avenger, or a whimsical decorative element, the Green Man taps into something ancient within the human psyche, a recognition that nature is a powerful, living force that demands respect and understanding. These modern adaptations, even when they play fast and loose with historical accuracy, underscore a fundamental truth. The Green Man, in all his leafy glory, continues to be a potent symbol, reminding us of the wild heart of the world and our own place within it. He is a constant, subtle whisper from the ancient collective unconscious, asking us to look closer at the leaves and remember the life that pulses beneath. For all its captivating presence throughout history, the Green Man presents a formidable challenge to archaeologists and art historians, precisely dating its carvings, especially when they appear within structures that have been modified, renovated, or rebuilt over many centuries. Imagine an ancient cathedral, a living testament to time, expanded in the 1200s, damaged in a fire in the 1500s, meticulously restored in the 1800s, and then further conserved in the modern era. Each intervention leaves its mark, making it incredibly difficult to determine whether a specific Green Man carving dates to the original construction, a later addition, a restoration, or even a deliberate anachronism by a particularly zealous revivalist. This layering of history creates a complex puzzle where the age of the stone may not correspond to the age of the carving, and the style of the carving might imitate an earlier period, all contributing to the persistent mystery surrounding the Green Man's true origins and evolution. One of the primary difficulties lies in the nature of medieval construction and subsequent alterations. Stonemasons often reused older blocks for new buildings, sometimes incorporating a previously carved piece into a new wall. Or during renovations, a damaged section might be replaced with a new carving in the original style, making it appear older than it truly is. Moreover, many churches and cathedrals have undergone extensive restorations in later centuries, particularly during the Victorian era's Gothic revival. These restorations, while often well-intentioned, frequently involved adding new carvings in a medieval style, sometimes even inventing motifs that weren't originally present. Distinguishing between an authentic medieval carving and a 19th century imitation requires meticulous architectural analysis, stylistic comparison to known datable pieces, and sometimes even chemical analysis of the stone itself to trace its quarry and working methods, adding layers of complexity to an already intricate task. The absence of written records detailing every carving commission only compounds this challenge, leaving historians to rely heavily on visual cues and expert interpretation, which can sometimes be subjective. Despite these dating challenges, recent archaeological discoveries continue to shed new light on the Green Man's history, occasionally unearthing controversial early examples that challenge preconceived notions about its development. For instance, while the canonical Green Man is largely associated with medieval Europe, scholars are constantly revisiting and re-evaluating ancient artifacts that bear a striking resemblance to the motif. One such area of intense debate revolves around certain ancient Roman carvings. As discussed, the tomb of the Hatyrii in Rome provides a key early example, but further discoveries of Roman-era sculptures, mosaics, or architectural fragments from across the empire that feature faces entwined with foliage continue to push back the perceived timeline of the Green Man's conceptual origins. These Roman examples, often found in secular or funerary contexts, suggest that the idea of a leafy face might have been a broadly understood decorative motif long before its adoption by Christian churches, prompting a re-evaluation of its pagan versus Christian origins. Even more controversially, some archaeological findings have hinted at possible pre-Roman or even pre-Celtic antecedents. While highly debated and often lacking definitive proof, fragments of ancient pottery or crude carvings from prehistoric sites in Europe that show rudimentary faces peering from natural forms have sometimes been put forth as extremely early, albeit abstract, precursors. These claims are met with significant skepticism within the academic community due to the often ambiguous nature of the finds and the immense chronological gaps. However, they underscore the compelling psychological impulse to link human forms with the natural world, an impulse that might have manifested in various ways across different ancient cultures. The ongoing work of archaeologists in uncovering previously unknown structures and artifacts, coupled with the rigorous re-examination of existing collections through modern analytical techniques, means that the story of the Green Man is far from complete. Each new find, no matter how small, has the potential to shift our understanding of this enduring symbol, prompting fresh debates and deeper explorations into its ancient past. The challenge of dating, therefore, is not merely a technical hurdle but an integral part of the continuous, fascinating discovery of the Green Man's multifaceted journey through human civilization. While the Green Man embodies the spirit of verdant growth and natural regeneration, medieval European folklore and art also feature a closely related, yet distinctly different figure, the Wild Man. Often depicted as a hairy, uncivilized, and powerful human-like creature dwelling in forests and mountains, the Wild Man represents another facet of humanity's ancient and complex relationship with nature. Distinguishing between these two archetypal figures of the wilderness is crucial to understanding the nuanced ways in which medieval people perceived and symbolized the forces beyond their domesticated world. The most obvious visual difference lies in their primary connection to nature. The Green Man is fundamentally defined by foliage. His face is either composed of leaves, vines, or branches, or he is entirely enveloped by them, sometimes even appearing as if he is literally breathing out vegetation. His very essence is botanical. He is the spirit of the plant kingdom, embodying the generative power of trees, flowers, and crops. He is cycles, growth, and the verdant abundance of the earth. His presence, even in churches, often speaks to fertility and the promise of renewal, a benign or at least neutral force intrinsic to the land's bounty. Think of him as the living embodiment of the forest's ability to sprout, bloom, and provide sustenance. In stark contrast, the Wild Man is defined by his primal humanity, stripped of civilization's veneer. He is typically depicted as a hirsute man covered in hair or fur, sometimes wielding a club and occasionally accompanied by wild animals. While he dwells in the wilderness, he is not made of it. Rather, he is a human who has reverted to a natural, untamed state. He is often seen as a liminal figure, existing on the fringes of society, embodying both the fear and the fascination with the uncivilized. His representations often carry connotations of brute strength, uncontrolled instincts, and a life outside the moral and social order of medieval towns and villages. He is a potent symbol of human wildness, of the raw, untamed aspects of human nature that society attempts to suppress or civilize. The symbolic functions of these two figures also diverge significantly. The green man, as a spirit of vegetation, primarily symbolizes ecological processes, the fertility of the land, the rhythm of the seasons, the perennial resurgence of life, and the inherent vitality of the natural world. He is a visual prayer for good harvests, a celebration of the earth's bounty, and a reminder of humanity's dependence on the natural environment. Even in his more unsettling forms, where vines emerge from his orifices, he represents a powerful, often uncontrollable flow of life force. His integration into religious architecture suggests a degree of acceptance, perhaps even reverence, for nature's divine order. The wild man, however, carries a more ambiguous, sometimes threatening symbolism. He represents the untamed wilderness in a broader, more existential sense, not just its flora, but its dangers, its unpredictability, and its moral ambiguity. He embodies the chaos beyond human control, the dark woods where one might get lost or encounter beasts, both literal and metaphorical. More importantly, he often symbolizes the wildness within humanity itself, the instincts, passions, and raw desires that civilization seeks to tame. He is a cautionary tale about succumbing to base urges, but also a figure of fascination, representing a lost freedom or a connection to a primal existence that society has shed. While the green man is about the inherent life of the earth, the wild man is about the human condition when detached from societal constraints, a figure that tests the boundaries of humanity and civility. Their typical placements in medieval art further illuminate their distinction. The green man is most commonly found in architectural carvings, particularly on churches, integrated into the fabric of human-made structures, albeit as a nod to the natural world. He is often a decorative element, blending into the overall aesthetic. The wild man, by contrast, appears in a wider range of contexts. He is found in marginalia of illuminated manuscripts, where he interacts with knights, ladies, or even mythical beasts, often in narratives that explore morality, social order, or the triumph of virtue over vice. He also appears in heraldry as a supporter on coats of arms, perhaps signifying a connection to ancient lineage or untamed lands. His presence in these narratives positions him more as a character within a story, often as a foil to civilized society, rather than a direct personification of natural phenomena itself. Despite their differences, it's important to note that both figures arose from a shared cultural landscape where the line between humanity and nature was fluid, and the wilderness held immense symbolic power. Both represent humanity's deep-seated awareness of forces beyond human control and reason. The green man offered a more generalized, life-affirming vision of nature's generative power, while the wild man personified its untamed, sometimes frightening, yet also compelling aspects and the reflection of that wildness within humanity itself. Their coexistence in medieval iconography speaks to a sophisticated understanding of the multifaceted relationship between humans and the natural world, a continuous ancient dialogue that persists in our imaginations to this very day. Beyond its silent vigil in stone, many scholars and enthusiasts have long pondered whether the green man played a more active, even performative, role in medieval life. Was this leafy face merely an architectural flourish, or did it have deeper ritual and ceremonial connections, perhaps even reaching back into earlier pagan practices? While direct historical evidence for such roles can be elusive, the theories are compelling, suggesting a vibrant, living connection between the carved symbol and the seasonal rhythms of medieval communities. This investigation leads us away from the static church walls and into the dynamic world of medieval mystery plays, communal celebrations, and the echoes of ancient ceremonies. One of the most intriguing theories posits that the Green Man, or a figure inspired by his essence, made appearances in medieval mystery plays and other folk dramas. These plays, often performed outdoors in town squares or churchyards, were a central part of communal life, reenacting biblical stories or morality tales. Given the medieval penchant for allegorical figures and vivid visual representation, it's not a large leap to imagine a character, perhaps adorned with foliage, embodying aspects of nature, renewal, or even the wild forces that tempted or aided humanity. While explicit stage directions for a Green Man character are rare, the spirit of nature often permeated these performances. Consider the figure of Jack in the Green, discussed earlier, as a clear descendant of such performative traditions. Although the Jack in the Green's documented history largely begins later, it's highly plausible that earlier, less formalized and less documented versions of such leafy figures participated in seasonal processions or folk plays, perhaps as a character representing the spirit of spring, the wild woods, or even the devil in a more primordial guise. These figures would have provided a direct, embodied link to the agricultural cycles that so profoundly shaped daily life, reinforcing the idea of a living Green Man interacting with the community. The strongest arguments for the Green Man's ritualistic connections often revolve around seasonal rituals, particularly those celebrating fertility and the turning of the agricultural year. Before the widespread adoption of Christian holidays, European communities observed ancient pagan festivals marking the solstices, equinoxes, and crucial points in the planting and harvesting cycles. Many of these traditions, even after Christianization, persisted in altered forms as folk customs. It's theorized that figures embodying the spirit of vegetation, like the Green Man, would have been central to these ceremonies. For instance, at Beltane, the ancient Celtic festival celebrating the start of summer and the fertility of the land, a May King or Green Man figure might have led processions, blessed the fields, or participated in symbolic unions to ensure a bountiful harvest. The act of bringing greenery into homes and villages, a widespread custom during May Day celebrations, could be seen as an invitation to the Green Man's spirit of abundance. While direct textual evidence linking specific Green Man carvings to these ancient ceremonies is scarce, the thematic congruence is striking. The carvings could be seen as a way of capturing and permanently embedding the spirit of these fleeting, yet profoundly significant, seasonal rituals within the enduring fabric of stone, ensuring that the essence of nature's regenerative power remained present year-round. Furthermore, the Green Man's presence in sacred spaces might have underscored the idea of a sacred landscape, a belief common in many pagan traditions where certain groves, trees, or springs were considered holy. The placement of a Green Man at a doorway, a font, or a pillar could have served as a visual reminder of the threshold between the human world and a more deeply spiritual, natural realm. In this sense, the Green Man would not just be decoration, but a symbolic gatekeeper or a channel for the life-giving forces of the earth into the consecrated space of the church. This doesn't mean the Green Man was actively worshipped inside the church, but rather that his image resonated with a pre-existing cultural understanding of the sacredness of nature, acting as a visual shorthand for concepts of fertility, renewal, and the wildness of creation. For a largely illiterate populace, visual symbols were powerful conveyors of meaning, and the Green Man, whether from active ritual or cultural memory, would have spoken volumes about man's dependence on the earth's bounty and the cyclical nature of existence. While the evidence for explicit Green Man rituals in medieval Europe is primarily inferential, drawn from the symbol's widespread appearance and thematic parallels with known folk customs, some intriguing, albeit fragmented, pieces of evidence do exist. Take, for example, the widespread medieval practice of decorating churches with fresh greenery, especially during festivals like Christmas and Easter. This act, while Christianized, echoes older traditions of bringing the vitality of nature indoors. The presence of green man carvings might have acted as a permanent, idealized version of these temporary leafy decorations, symbolizing the enduring life force. Additionally, some historical records mention medieval guild pageants or civic processions where figures, sometimes masked or adorned with leaves, participated, hinting at a performative aspect of such nature spirits. While these historical fragments don't offer irrefutable proof of specific green man rituals, they certainly paint a picture of a cultural landscape where the figure would have felt not just familiar, but deeply meaningful, serving as a subtle yet persistent reminder of humanity's ancient, ritualistic bond with the living world. The green man, in this view, is a bridge between the deep-rooted pagan past and the unfolding Christian present, forever whispering tales of seasonal rebirth and the enduring wildness of the human spirit. While the green man's most visually striking and enduring presence is undoubtedly etched into the stone and wood of ancient buildings, his influence wasn't confined to architectural ornamentation. This enigmatic figure also made his way into another powerful and highly organized symbolic system, heraldry. The appearance of the green man in heraldic devices on family crests and within the intricate rules of medieval and Renaissance armorial bearings offers a fascinating glimpse into how this symbol was adopted by noble families and what its perceived power and significance might have been beyond its connection to nature worship or ecclesiastical decoration. Heraldry, the elaborate system of coats of arms and other symbolic devices used to identify individuals, families, and institutions, was a visual language of power, lineage, and identity in medieval and early modern Europe. Its symbols were carefully chosen to convey specific meanings, virtues, or historical claims. When the green man, or a very similar foliate head, appears within this structured system, it suggests a deliberate choice, imbuing the bearer with the qualities or associations represented by the leafy visage. One might find the green man as a charge, a principal design element on the shield, a crest placed above the shield, or most commonly, as a supporter, figures flanking the shield, often human, animal, or mythical. His presence indicates that the families who adopted him saw value in his symbolism, perhaps associating themselves with the wild, untamed power of nature, fertility, or even an ancient, deep-rooted connection to the land itself. Specific examples from medieval and Renaissance heraldry illuminate this adoption. In England, one notable instance is the crest of the family of Gay. Their crest, a distinctive element above the helmet in a full achievement of arms, features a human head wreathed with foliage, unmistakably a green man. The name Gay itself, though unrelated to modern usage, could have ancient roots, possibly even connected to joy or merriment, further linking to the festive, life-affirming aspects of the green man often seen in folk traditions. The deliberate choice of such a figure for a family crest, a permanent symbol of identity and lineage, suggests a desire to project an image of natural vitality, perhaps even robust health or a connection to the bountiful earth from which their prosperity might have sprung. It's a powerful visual statement that sets them apart, aligning their identity with the green man's potent symbolism. Beyond specific family crests, the green man also appears as a supporter in the armorial bearings of various guilds and corporations, particularly those associated with forestry, gardening, or agriculture. For example, some of the ancient worshipful companies of London, whose origins lie in medieval trade guilds, may feature figures akin to the green man in their arms, highlighting their connection to the natural resources that fueled their crafts. This corporate adoption further reinforces the green man's association with productivity, growth, and the essential resources derived from nature. It was a way for these organizations to visually declare their reliance on, and perhaps their guardianship of, the natural world that sustained their livelihoods. The adoption of the green man by noble families and other powerful institutions reveals a fascinating evolution of the symbol beyond its religious or folk origins. For these elite groups, the green man was likely reinterpreted to convey a sense of ancient lineage, an untamed strength, or a deep connection to the ancestral lands. In a society where land ownership was paramount, associating oneself with a symbol of the earth's enduring vitality and fertility would have been highly desirable. It could also suggest a certain primal authority, a power that predates feudal law and flows directly from the very ground itself, linking the noble family to a source of strength that was both mystical and deeply rooted. Moreover, the green man's presence in heraldry during the Renaissance period, a time of renewed interest in classical antiquity and a more rational worldview, indicates that the symbol retained its appeal even as cultural taste shifted. While the Renaissance saw a decline in the overt use of the green man in new church architecture, his persistence in heraldry suggests that certain aspects of his symbolism, perhaps his connection to ancient forces or his visual uniqueness, continued to hold sway. He wasn't just a quaint medieval relic, he possessed a timeless quality that allowed him to transcend changing artistic and religious fashions. His adoption into the rigid and often conservative world of heraldry thus marks a significant stage in the green man's journey, revealing his adaptability and the enduring power of his symbolic resonance in the minds of those who sought to convey power, prestige, and a deep, often mysterious connection to the life force of the world. Despite centuries of study, countless books, and academic debates, the green man stubbornly retains his essential enigma. As we trace his compelling journey from ancient Roman tombs to modern pop culture, we are consistently confronted with a core set of profound, unanswered questions. These aren't just minor historical footnotes, they are the very heart of the green man's enduring mystery, prompting us to ask, why did this specific symbol, a human face intertwined with foliage, appear across such diverse cultures and seemingly disparate historical periods? What exact meaning did it hold for the medieval carvers who so meticulously brought thousands of these figures to life in the sacred spaces of Europe? And perhaps most tellingly, why does this leafy visage continue to fascinate and resonate so powerfully with us today, centuries after its peak? The most compelling theories attempt to grapple with these enduring puzzles, but ultimately, the green man remains a silent, watchful challenge, inviting us to ponder the depths of our own connection to the natural world. One of the largest and most persistent questions revolves around the green man's cross-cultural presence. We've seen tantalizing glimpses of similar foliate heads in ancient Roman and Syrian contexts, and even subtle echoes in some Islamic art. This widespread appearance, though varying in specific detail, begs the question of whether this is a case of independent invention, a universal archetype arising from shared human experiences, or evidence of a far more pervasive, ancient, and interconnected symbolic language than we typically acknowledge. Is there something fundamentally human about personifying the life-giving forces of nature through a leafy face that transcends cultural boundaries? One compelling theory suggests that the green man is indeed an archetype in the Jungian sense, representing the spirit of nature, or the collective unconscious of humanity's relationship with the wild. This would explain why variations on the theme, consciously or unconsciously, emerge in different traditions that interact deeply with their natural environments. It speaks to a primal human need to understand and connect with the immense power of growth, fertility, and regeneration, processes fundamental to human survival and flourishing, regardless of geographical location or religious doctrine. The universal experience of seeing life emerge from the earth, cycle through seasons, and decay only to be reborn, might simply be too profound not to manifest in similar symbolic forms across the globe. Adding to the complexity is the question of what the green man truly meant to the medieval carvers themselves. We know they produced thousands of these figures, often with incredible skill and dedication, placing them in prominent, sometimes hidden, locations within churches and cathedrals. Was it a conscious reinterpretation of pagan deities, a deliberate attempt by the Church to assimilate older beliefs into a Christian framework, transforming a forest god into a symbol of divine creation or resurrection? Or was it simply a continuation of a long-established artistic tradition, a decorative motif that artisans included because it was aesthetically pleasing and familiar, without necessarily imbuing it with deep theological significance? Perhaps it was a mixture of both, a dynamic interplay between official doctrine and popular folk beliefs. Some historians argue that the very ambiguity of the Green Man allowed it to serve multiple purposes. For the educated clergy, it might have symbolized the created world and God's glory. For the largely illiterate common folk, it could have been a comforting reminder of nature's bounty and the promise of new life, perhaps even a subtle nod to older, pre-Christian ways of understanding the world. The fact that the Green Man continued to be carved even as the Church sought to suppress overt paganism suggests a tolerated, if not officially sanctioned, symbolic flexibility that remains difficult to fully decipher. Finally, we are left with the most contemporary question: why does the Green Man continue to fascinate us today? In an age dominated by technology and urbanization, the Green Man's resurgence in environmental movements, modern art, and pop culture seems almost counterintuitive. Yet his appeal is undeniable. Perhaps it's because the Green Man speaks to a deep-seated longing for reconnection with nature in a world increasingly divorced from it. He embodies a sense of wildness, authenticity, and primordial power that feels missing from modern life. He serves as a powerful reminder of our ecological roots and the urgent need to protect the planet. For many, the Green Man has become a potent symbol of environmental consciousness, a visual rallying cry for sustainability and rewilding, representing the resilience and healing power of the natural world. He also taps into a universal human fascination with mysteries, with things hidden in plain sight, offering a tangible link to ancient wisdom and forgotten ways of understanding the world. His ambiguity, far from being a weakness, is his strength, allowing each generation to project its own anxieties, hopes, and dreams onto his leafy face. The Green Man, in his quiet, watchful way, continues to challenge us, inviting us to look closer, to question our assumptions, and to remember the vibrant, untamed heart of the world that still beats within and around us. So, as we conclude our extraordinary journey through the captivating world of the Green Man, we're left with a profound sense of awe at this symbol's incredible resilience and adaptability. We've traced its enigmatic visage from the sun-baked stones of ancient Roman tombs and Syrian mosaics, hinting at origins far older than traditionally assumed, through its unexpected and widespread flourishing within the sacred spaces of medieval Christian cathedrals across Europe. We've explored its potential pagan echoes in figures like Cernunnos and the vibrant, living traditions of the Jack in the Green, suggesting a deep, continuous human connection to the cycles of nature. We then saw its curious appearances in Islamic art, highlighting cultural exchange, and its near disappearance during the Reformation and Renaissance, only to be gloriously rediscovered and revived by the Gothic movement. This ancient figure then burst into the modern consciousness, fueled by academic interest, influencing literary giants, and finally, embracing a vital new role as a powerful emblem for environmentalism, thriving in popular culture, and even finding a place in the complex landscape of psychological archetypes. This journey, spanning millennia and continents, underscores the remarkable staying power of an image that is both simple in its form and infinitely complex in its meaning. Yet, despite this extensive exploration, the Green Man stubbornly retains its core mystery. It continues to captivate us precisely because it resists easy, definitive interpretation. Is it a nature deity, a symbol of fertility, a guardian of the wild, a representation of Christ, or simply a decorative flourish? Perhaps it is all of these and more. Its ambiguity is its strength, allowing it to adapt and resonate across diverse cultures and changing belief systems. The fact that this specific image, a human face intimately intertwined with foliage, has appeared and reappeared in so many different contexts suggests something deeply universal about humanity's relationship with the natural world, a primal connection that transcends specific religions or philosophies. It points to an enduring human need to personify the Earth's life-giving force, to acknowledge the wildness within and around us, and to grapple with the rhythms of growth, decay, and regeneration. The Green Man is a silent, leafy challenge, a profound riddle etched in stone, wood, and our collective consciousness, reminding us that some mysteries are meant to be pondered, not entirely solved. Now, as you go about your day, we invite you to embark on your own little treasure hunt. Chances are you're closer to a green man than you think. Look carefully at the architectural details of your local historical buildings, churches, old public libraries, Victorian-era houses, or even older pubs. You might be surprised to find a subtle leafy face peering down at you from a column capital, a corbel, a doorway, or tucked away in a decorative frieze. These aren't just quaint decorations, they are whispers from the past, invitations to connect with centuries of human history and our timeless relationship with the natural world. If you discover one, we'd love to hear about it. Share your findings in the comments below. Describe where you saw it, what it looked like, and how it made you feel. Your discoveries contribute to the fascinating, ongoing story of this enduring symbol. Ultimately, our enduring fascination with the Green Man reveals something profound about ourselves. It shows that even in an increasingly technologically advanced and urbanized world, humanity retains an eternal, undeniable connection to nature. We yearn for the wild, we celebrate life and growth, and we are perpetually awestruck by the Earth's regenerative power. The Green Man stands as a timeless reminder that we are part of a larger, living system, and that the ancient, elemental forces of nature continue to shape our myths, our art, and our very souls. He is a silent guardian, a green echo from the past, forever reminding us to seek the wild heart of the world, and to find the deep, verdant wisdom that lies hidden in plain sight, just like the leaves that always return with spring.